Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Labasse, and I'm your host tonight from Homeschooling for College Credit. Thank you for joining us for the 2024 Homeschooling for College Credit Dual Credit College Fair and the Lone Star College Dual Credit Information Session. Tonight, we are joined by Tanya Taylor, Manager of Student Support at LSC Online, Michelle Satchel, Dual Credit Coordinator, Dr. Stubbs, Dual Credit System Manager, and Christina Cross, Professor of Business for LSC Online, and she's a homeschool mom. Our agenda this evening for our information session is a presentation by Lone Star College, a Q&A by your Homeschooling for College Credit team, followed by an open Q&A via the chat box from our attendees. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to put those in the chat box and we will answer them at the end. We expect this session to take approximately 1 hour. Please continue to leave your video and microphones off throughout the session. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Tanya Taylor from Lone Star College.
Thank you again for attending the LSC Online Dual Credit Homeschool College Night. We're going to start off taking a little bit about LSC Online or LSC Lone Star College. So we'll start with Michelle.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Satchel. I am the Dual Credit Coordinator for LSC Online. Just some general information about Lone Star College. We were established in 1972, and we're accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. We do currently have 8 campuses and 12 centers with about 32 to 18 students per class and 82,725 students. We currently have over 200 degree and certification programs and 4 bachelor degree programs. A little bit about LSC Online. Students can complete the core curriculum with our award-winning faculty. We currently have over 30 fully online programs, and our faculty and professional staff are experts in online education.
Thank you for that information, Michelle. So let's talk about what is dual credit. Dual credit allows students to get high school credit, college credit while they're still in high school. It also, as far as LSC Online, it gives you that virtual platform, but also Lone Star College has face-to-face options as well. Then it also lets the student get their Texas core curriculum requirement completed to transfer on to universities. Okay. And so currently while you're in high school, so that's one of the key things. To qualify for the dual credit program, you have to be currently in high school. You'll complete an exception admissions form that needs to be approved by your homeschool administrator, have taken the approved placement exam, and meet the minimum college readiness test scores. I will cover the college readiness test options and score requirements later in the presentation. What makes a student college ready? Ready for the challenge. Okay, and that means rigorous high school, college curriculum, as well as staying balanced. Because we do understand that student has extracurricular activities going on, involved in community resources, and setting goals. Be ready to take, your academic skills, being aware of what's expected in the dual credit program and the courses that you're selecting, along with planning. Being able to be self-motivated, organized, and using your time management. That's what makes a student college ready. One of the questions is there a minimum age to start the dual credit program? There is not a minimum age required for Lone Star's dual credit program. But one of the things you have to remember is that main eligibility is earning high school credit. So you complete a partnership agreement, which is effective for 5 years. Okay. We do understand that sometimes there's things that challenges students may be faced or encounter, which kind of delays that graduation or that completion of high school. That's one of the reasons why it's effective for 5 years max. Okay, and the student must earn high school credit. Okay. Students 15 and younger must have a legal responsible adult with them at the LSC campuses and centers. So I am talking about, if you're deciding to go face to face, but on the other hand, when you're in your platform, if it's virtual, most of the time you're at home and parents or that legal guardian is there with you in your space. So we don't so much monitor that. So the academic maturity versus general maturity. One of the things that they have to keep in mind is the content or the student learning outcomes that student will be introduced to. So that's where it's very important to understand the academic maturity and the general maturity and the 15 years or younger responsibility. But of course, all material is monitored within the guidelines of the contents that are allowed by the college. So, the exposure could be a little bit more mature than that student at that time, but of course the contents is within guidelines. Okay, so the benefit of dual credit. When you're looking at the benefit of dual credit, it allows you to save money, come familiar with the college life and demands, earn college credit while exploring areas of interest. Because some students do not necessarily always know right off the gate, especially as a 9th grader, what they're wanting to major in. By the time they finish high school, then they'll have that sense of understanding. And it allows flexible scheduling options. With the LSC online platform, the classes are all virtual. But it allows you to also register classes face to face if you're looking at a certain time frame and availability. That is an option as well. Even though you're submitting your information to the LSC online campus, you can select a face to face course if you choose to, as well as building a strong academic resume. And we'll talk a little bit about the academic resume and the importance of that. Also, with getting a head start in dual credit, it allows you to complete your associate's degree and bachelor's degree sooner. As I was speaking about the academic resume, this is just some data that we pulled according to Baylor pre-med, pre-dental admissions process. So this allows students, especially if you're going into a major that's heavy science or math, it'll allow you to kind of go ahead and get those courses out the way as a high school student, doing it as dual credit. And then that builds that resume or that academics of acceptance to admissions sooner. So you'll go in with a lot of the prerequisites or showing that you have the ability to complete certain coursework that's required for degree plan within the med or high level of math or English course degrees. Okay. Another example that I would like to use is A&M's admissions program, especially, when you're looking at the engineering application, those are definitely high in math and science areas. So if you're able to get a step ahead, that's definitely a great opportunity. Want to do some comparison when it talks about when we refer to cost of attendance. Lone Star credit hour for 3 credit hours is $120, compared to those at other universities in the area going in as a freshman. So that allows you to go in as a higher class, able to save 2 years of money at a lower cost compared to going in as a freshman and paying the higher cost for classes that you definitely could have gotten early during your high school curriculum. So I want to break down the opportunity of flexible course sections. So throughout the fall and spring, we have a 16-week, 14-week, 12-week, and 8-week options to choose from when it comes down to your course load. I highly recommend staying within the 16 to 12 weeks when all possible, because even though the weeks for the class is reduced, you still have the same amount of workload that is expected. So definitely trying to stay with 16, 14, and possibly 12 will give you that opportunity to definitely spread out and do better planning for your course loads. When we're talking about the fall and spring, the max credit hour a student could take is 17 credit hours, which is typically about 5 to 6 classes at the max. Do I encourage it? It's totally up to the maturity and college ready of the student. Then we have the summer sessions, which is 2 sessions. There's summer 1 and summer 2. During each session, a student is allowed to take 2 classes in those 6-week sessions. So in summer 1, a student can take 2 classes, and then in summer 2, a student can take 2 classes, which is pretty much giving the student about 12 credit hours for that total of 12 weeks in the summer. We also have the winter mini and the winter May, which are 3 to 4 weeks long. A student is limited to 1 credit, one class per those sessions. Okay. And one of the things that I also want to let students be aware of, that you do have access to tutoring, counseling service, student life, and transfer services. Even though you're thinking, oh, it's a virtual opportunity, we are still that wraparound service for students. So yes, we do have online student life activities, as well as tutoring and counseling services if needed. Okay. One of the things I definitely want to highlight is that disability services and accommodation. One of the things that I tell my students is take the dis out of ability and turn it into ability to be successful. So if you're needing the accommodations, definitely reach out to our disability services, because we want every student to have the opportunity of success, equal opportunity to being successful in their academics here at Lone Star. Okay. So one of the things that we like students to be aware of is, what does it mean when it's saying that there's internal course credit, Texas numbering system, as well as different transfer advising opportunities. So when we talk about internal credits, that's done by credit by exam, which gives the student the option of getting credits by testing out of different courses that's approved, and allow that less classwork or less credit hours that you have to pay for along the way. So it's just another way of finishing a degree plan sooner. Also, having the knowledge of Texas Common Course Numbering System, which tells you what classes here at Lone Star would go on and equal to another college within the Texas public institution. So therefore, as you're doing planning for long-term opportunities in your degrees, as a bachelor's program, this is definitely a tool that I encourage students to use. And then the transfer advising area, which allows you students to access what courses are going to transfer from Lone Star, what classes do I need to be on track with, what classes should I be completing within my high school curriculum. So give an example of what we mean by internal exam. So we have AP, CLEP, ACTs, Avant test. So in our catalog, in the hyperlink that I provided previously on the previous slide, it allows the student to look at what class that they can get credit for based off a score. So using the arts and music as an example, and then of course you have business, English, foreign languages. So a student could take the challenge exam, being the AP College Board, and they can get Arts 1301 credit, which fulfills the fine arts area or elective area on our Associate of Arts or Associate of Science degree. So there's other opportunities of getting through the degree requirement faster. Also, when we talk about doing CLEP and different things like that, make sure that you're aware of, if you're going to transfer, what would that university also accept when it comes down to those credit by exam. So we definitely could move forward as far as the admissions process. The admissions process is done through our Lone Star homepage, and then you go to apply now. And then you'll finish the Texas Common application process. Okay. So you'll always want to select the dual credit prompt. And then the next step is when you're selecting your choice of school or program, not to select the bachelor's program at Lone Star, even though that might be your long-term goal, and not to select non-degree seeking at Lone Star. Okay. So it kind of gives you the reasons of why not to select those items, because it'll cause glitches and things like that. But if you do, we can definitely help you as far as maneuvering it to the correct area. Okay. So in the acceptance or in the admissions process, we have testing, which we offer remote testing. So the remote testing, the student is required to pay for the proctoring fee, which is $25. But the actual initial exam is free for dual credit students. So that part is waived. Instead of paying $50 for the exam, the student would pay the $25 for the proctoring fee. Okay. So I mentioned that I'll kind of give you a layout of what the test options that you have and the score requirement. So this is the current placement chart as far as the TSI test. This is what the remote proctoring that we do for TSI, and then the STAR, ACTs, SATs, ACT Aspire, and Plan, and SATs, PSATs is allowed for dual credit placement. Okay, so then another way of the testing exemption is based on CLEP or AP. Could also be used as far as your TSI exemption. So I'm gonna turn over the dual credit admissions process over to Michelle. And then Dr. Stubbs will kind of give us an update of where we're moving in that direction concerning the application or the dual credit paperwork.
Okay, I will review the paperwork that's required to become a dual credit student with Lone Star. The first is a partnership agreement or the MOU, and this does need to be completed by the parent. If Dr. Stubbs wants to jump in, we do have a new process for the homeschool contract.
Yes, thank you, Michelle, and good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Stubbs. I am the system manager for dual credit here at Lone Star College. And I just wanted to thank everyone, first and foremost, for being here, because you could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here with us. So we do appreciate that. Before I go into the agreement, I just want to make sure you all do understand that you are in the right place. Okay. The fact that you're homeschooling, we understand the nuances and the time and attention that it takes to set your student up for success. And that's what it's all about. And so what Tanya has already explained through that presentation, and Michelle is going to, really kind of talk about the process of the agreement and all that's required. And I'm going to touch on that. Understand that you're in the right place. You're going in the right direction. This is an affordable, I don't know if it was mentioned, but $40 a credit, you can't beat it. $40 a credit, dual credit, get to the workforce early. We have the programs, we have the skills available. So understand we have the pathways and the skills available. And we also have some other members on the call here too as well. So please be sure to ask the professor. She's in business. And I'll end with this. One of my favorite things to say is, if you don't know exactly what path you want to take, just stick with the ABCs, right? And I speak on accounting, business, and computer science. Okay. Start at those three if you don't know where to go and figure it out from there. But luckily for you all, you have Professor Cross here who can speak on those areas. And if there's any things I can fill in as well, just based on what I know as well. So in light of the agreement and the paperwork of the slide in front of you, let's talk about this. So we in the past had you fill this out electronically, and that was good. However, there were some operations that we needed to clean up. And so we've been doing some cleanup work, and we now have and will begin a digital workflow process with this agreement. So in essence, that when you are signing this agreement, you will receive the copy as well, and you'll be able to know when it's all completed as well. Although it may seem like, wouldn't you just do that with an agreement? Trust us. I think the world thinks that a lot of systems in the higher ed space are, high tech, but unfortunately they're not. But the good thing is we're always about progress. And that's why with homeschool and dual credit, this is only going to progress you further. So I'll end with this. So when you get your alerts about the contract, if there's any questions or anything, please be sure to contact Tanya, Michelle, and the online team to ask any questions. It is a new process, so if there's any hiccups or anything, please let us know. We're very receptive to feedback, okay? So I'll close with, you all are in the right place, and Michelle, I'll let you finish it from here. But thank you,
Perfect.
everyone.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so the next documents that are required are the homeschool transcript and graduation plan, and that does need to be completed by a parent or the homeschool administrator. The transcript must be submitted each semester that the student is requesting courses, along with that course approval form, which will show up in a bit. That's here. And so This is the dual credit exceptional admission course approval form and the parental consent waiver, which essentially, this is the dual credit registration form. So you will put the courses that you're requesting on this form. It also is the parental consent as well in that middle section. So that needs to be signed by the parent. And then at the bottom, we'll also need the high school designee, the homeschool designee signature as well on those courses. And the last document is the FERPA, which is the authorization to release education records. This does need to be completed by the student. A student signature is required, and it can be emailed to us, but the student will need to list full names of individuals that LSC may disclose their educational information to. And we do recommend that this form is completed. It's optional, but we highly recommend that this form is completed.
Thank you, Michelle and Dr. Stubbs. So let's talk about finishing up on the admissions process. So once you're admitted, all official communications is done through your My Lone Star account. So we definitely want to make sure that you're aware of how to find that information, what's all there in your My Lone Star portal. So it's very important that you do go ahead and, reset your password, know your email address, because this is the first start to success, is being familiar with the platform that you will be expected to communicate and do your assignments through. Okay. So there's different things as far as your financial account. This is also the portal that you'll use to pay for the $40 per credit hour. As well as your orientation that's required to access your class. And this orientation must be completed prior to the first day of class. That way you'll be able to do your assignments, plan ahead, buy your books. So it kind of goes back to those 4 or 5 points that I mentioned earlier about what does it take to be successful and what does it take to be college readiness as a dual credit student. So that is our presentation for this evening. I will leave up my contact information for our LSC online dual credit team. And
Great.
thank everyone for attending.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We have some questions now from the HS4CC staff. Do you have any free books included in any of your courses?
We do have what we call online, am I saying this right, Professor Cross? Online resource. So it really depends on the course and the instructor if they are doing what we call the OER, online educational resource tools in their class. So that is an option, but that will be something definitely once you enroll for the class, knowing that that's a part of it.
Okay. Is there any sort of like icon or any searchable method to find courses that have that option, the OER option?
I can answer that. Currently, there isn't in the class search. I believe we will hopefully have that in the future, but right now you won't see it in the class search, but you can look up the courses in the bookstore listing before you register to see if OER is listed. Additionally, on the Lone Star website, you can search for the faculty syllabus, and that will list if they're using a paid textbook or an OER resource.
Okay. Would it be possible for one of you to put the syllabus access, if it's a separate thing from searching for classes, in the chat for members to snag as we talk?
Absolutely. It also includes a link to the course evaluation results for the faculty member. So it's a great resource to use when you're looking for classes.
Oh, fantastic. So that's the course evaluations from past students. Is that what that is?
Correct. Yes. It is just the average number, but it's the official evaluations that Lone Star sends for students to fill out. So it can be a little less biased than when you go to rate my professor, because then you usually only see the good and the bad. Whereas this, you're seeing the whole student body from that class that was surveyed.
Right. We were talking about this last night in a session with another college, and noting, both of us noted the Rate My Professor is a great tool, but sometimes you don't have the happy people post, only the unhappy people. They're always really willing to give an opinion. And I've had situations where Rate My Professor had a really low rating for a teacher, and then my son went, wow, he was a great teacher. I don't know why he had such a low rating. So it's great that you've provided extra data for us. We appreciate that. Are there any courses that are not eligible for the dual credit rate? And I'm thinking like things maybe for a degree, or common things that a student might want, like that maybe learning frameworks, if that's a requirement, or the Fed 1164, that's sometimes a requirement at certain colleges for an associate's degree.
And you're correct. You touched on both of them. EDUC 1300, which is a college framework, that is required from Lone Star after the student completes high school. So, and a student could end up bypassing that if they end up completing high school with their degree. But once you come into Lone Star, you are going to be required to do the first time in college. And you're thinking, I'm not first time in college. For the purpose of EDUC, you are really first time in college, because of the courses that you did was really dual credit in a different type of platform. Especially when you think about, students who have classes embedded at the high school and they never have that college exposure. So EDUC is one of the classes that is not covered by dual credit, along with the physical activity, which is PHED 1164.
Okay, but otherwise, most of your courses are covered then statewide at that $40 per credit rate. Is that correct? Like all the core, the foreign languages, probably most, but not all of the workforce. I'm thinking of, if I think you have nursing, sometimes those are competitive. So some of the nursing courses wouldn't be included, right?
Tuition is at that rate. You might have additional lab fees or class related fees to that course, but the tuition rate for the course is the same across the board.
Okay, anyone in Texas. Okay.
Yes, regardless of being out of district or in district.
Okay, fantastic. I noticed on one of the previous slides, you had a transcript there, and I made a little note to myself, because I think that's part of the new process. Can students still, or can parents still use their existing transcript, or do they need to use the form that we saw there, where it was literally a transcript, essentially transcribed into a fillable form?
I'm gonna let Michelle answer that, but that was really a template. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be in that format, but it does give the format of what all needs to be included.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Let's see here. We have some students who are a little bit ahead. Can they test into a higher level of math? Do you have a placement exam for that?
Yes, there is a placement, TSI, and then there's ACTs, SAT scores, and then the additional next gen test. So if the student shows that they're higher than based on previous testing, say they're testing out of college algebra, but based on this score, you go into TRIG. So there's other type of exams that will measure higher levels of math.
Great. If a student needs to drop a course, is there, would the next course, if they try to say they take college algebra this semester and they realize about 6 weeks in, this is not going to work for us, so they drop it, is there a charge for them to drop it, any additional penalty or anything for that? And then when they go to take it, say the next semester, is it still available at that $40 rate, or is there, are they paying full price?
No, students are not penalized for dropping a course, and there's so many layers to this, and I want to make sure I explain it clearly. So say, for instance, a student dropped a course before official day of records, which means there's no transcript affiliated with it, but there is a reduction in money back. So that money back will be rated based on, prorated based on the $120 that they paid. But there's no effect on the transcript. It's never even recorded. So by the time they drop it, it's at 75%. So they'll get 75% of that 120. Then you got what we call after ODR, meaning it's going to generate on your transcript, and it could be a possibility of no refund of that $120. So there is not a penalty for dropping, meaning for future enrollment.
Okay.
Dual credit students, and some students probably heard of the 6-drop rule in the state of Texas, meaning if you drop 6 times or 6 classes over your entire college career, it can result in a higher cost of tuition as you move forward. Dual credit courses are exempt from that rule. So your counter for dropping classes, if it's with a W, does not start until after your dual credit career or your high school.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have an honors program at Lone Star College, and are dual credit students allowed to participate, and what are the requirements?
Yes, we do have an honors program. I would have to follow up on the eligibility for the honors program. I'm not familiar with if dual credit students or high school students are eligible for that program or not. So that will have to be a follow-up questions from our honors program.
Okay.
I'll write it down.
Can students take courses at other colleges while they're also taking courses from Lone Star College?
I'm gonna say yes. Because what happens is that the student or the administrator will have to typically go under an MOU or some type of agreement with that other college as well. So those doors are not limited.
Okay. If you have a student who's already admitted and say second semester with Lone Star College, they've gone ahead and taken a course at, say, Houston Community College, how often or when would you need a transcript from Houston Community College after they've completed courses there? Do you need it as they go, like per semester, or do you need it by just like the end when they approach graduation?
That we would want it as they go. Because at any point, if the student academics needs to be updated for graduation purpose or completion purpose, or even when the students say, I have the prerequisite to that course already, and if we don't have the updated document, it'll make it a little bit more challenging and cause delay in enrollment. So the best practice is doing it as you go or after each academic year, but Lone Star would want the most current along the way.
Okay. What is the minimum lead time for a new student who wants to take classes at Lone Star College?
From admissions to enrollment, is that what you're asking?
Right.
Okay, so I would say the typical turnaround time can happen within a week. And I say a week because the admissions process through, what do you call it? Apply Texas, that's normally a 48 to 72 hour turnaround for it to go into our, from Apply Texas to Lone Star's database.
Okay.
It could happen a little sooner. It depends on how Apply Texas is downloading that information to the campuses or to the schools. So getting from that point and you're contacting us and your application is complete and you notice it's in the Lone Star's database, reaching out to our OL dual credit website, completing the MOU, submitting your transcripts and documentation. So I would say it can happen within a week,
Okay.
happen sooner.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about ideal lead times. So it sounds like a student could take maybe a week or so before classes start in August, for instance, and still have a chance to get registered. But ideally, students would register sometime in the spring with you and get the process rolling because of the early because of registration deadlines. So, when is the registration deadline for fall, and what are we talking for suggested lead times to be able to register on the first day that registration opens?
Okay. So registration for fall opens on April the 10th.
Okay.
My recommendation is to have registration completed by the first week or two in June. Because once students kind of depart for the summer and get into summer vacation and, things start happening, those classes start to fill up. Definitely by time July hits around. So if you know that you have closed that chapter, all your paperwork is done, your registration information is in, you get the opportunity to kind of have first dibs at course selection. But the later into the summer, it gets very slim pickings. And it become a cat and mouse because you can send in your paperwork. The class was open. By the time we got it and processed it, the class became closed because things move a little bit faster around July, for sure in August. Because also payment deadline goes back to planning. You'll have more time to plan for that payment, or if it's a payment plan or additional things that you're having to be responsible for, the sooner that you register, since payment is typically not due until like August the 10th or 6th. So if you're already in classes by, May or June, then you have that time to kind of pay it out and, save for it and be ready for that payment to be complete and work on books.
Okay.
So the earlier the better.
Okay. And for summer and fall registration, can you just give us sort of a month to expect when registration should open so that they can plan accordingly for that as well?
Okay. Summer registration opens normally the first week or two of March, which this year opens on March 5th.
Okay. And then spring registration?
Spring registration normally opens about October. We'll say mid-October. And it's none of our registration periods have a closing date. As long as the class is still available, then, of course, we'll make it happen. But then that's where it gets frustrating on the students' half by lack of being prepared for the course and getting the books and the turnaround time, the later that you wait to enroll.
Okay.
So we have open enrollment until the class is full.
Okay. And so are students allowed to register in that first week of classes? Say they had to drop a class and pick up a different one, or they just got started late. Will you allow them to register for a class in that first week?
So each one of our campuses have a deadline as far as registering for classes that has started. Normally if a student say they got into a one section and it started on that Monday and they need to switch to a one that starts on Tuesday, or they come in the day after, depend on how far they in the dual credit process and we can make it happen, we'll definitely, do some swapping if necessary. So we do definitely have some flexibility.
Okay.
Going back to the student to say, hey, I'm wanting to start, do you have any 14-week classes open? Or we probably recommend, instead of trying to start within a day or two of the class already in progress, we're probably going to refer that student back to maybe a 14-week. That way it allows a little bit more prep time, be able to get the books, being able to be ready.
Okay. And if a student registers with, say, LSC Online campus or University Park, can they take classes at any campus, or are they restricted just to the one campus they registered, signed up for online?
Their home campus is, I'm gonna say, the point of records. But yes, the student is allowed to register for classes outside of their home campus.
Okay. Can students enroll themselves in classes, or do the administrators or someone else register for them?
We process the registration manually because there are certain holds on the student's accounts that limits self-enrollment, because we have to verify with the additional signatures. So we kind of have to manually man it.
Okay. We have one more question about the transcript. I should have asked you earlier. If you have a rising freshman who has no high school transcript yet because they just finished 8th grade, do they still provide a high school transcript to you, even though it's probably blank?
I'm gonna let Michelle enlighten us on that one, because I think she has a little bit more expertise on that one.
So typically we do ask for both, even if it's blank, and as it progresses, just add to the transcript. But you can combine both the transcript and the graduation plan into one document as well.
Okay. Critical information there, I assume you want a graduation date on there, expected
Yes.
graduation date. And speaking
Yes.
of graduation dates, how long, what determines the end of their eligibility for the dual credit program? Is it 4 years, 5 years? Is it by age, by graduation date?
Well, the contract, the MOU that the student or the administrator originally signed, it's only good for 5 years.
Okay.
So it goes back to if there's some challenges that the student is encounter and having to delay the graduation date, then along with them updating their transcript every year with us, then that also could be an opportunity to update their graduation year.
Okay.
So the 5 year is the limit.
Okay. Is there a maximum amount of credit that a dual credit student is allowed to take at your college?
There's not a maximum amount, but goes back to the semester limitations, where fall and spring, the max is 17 credit hours. Then with that being said, let's look at being a community college, and degree requirements are typically 60 hours. So once you met that 60 hours, then you're looking at a possibility of transferring. Most university has a transfer limit. So if you exceed the 60 and maybe you're at, 80 hours, that's the best route based on your transfer plan. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing the opportunity of dual credit wisely. To continue to save money, but you don't want to excel or exceed your limitation going on to another university where it's going to hinder you.
Okay. Do students need to adhere to any sort of TEA high school requirements in order to be eligible for your dual credit program? Like, are you locking them into only 4 years of English or anything along those lines?
The student will be locked into their graduation plan and their transcript layout.
So whatever is what's laid out by the parent when you make the contract, is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are students allowed to take any remedial courses through the dual credit program, like remedial math?
The answer is no. So going back to Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board says dual credit is for college readiness. It's not to prepare you for college readiness. So they look at the high school level curriculum to prepare you for any of those developmental courses. So you cannot utilize the dual credit opportunity.
Okay. Is there any sort of holistic review for a TSI waiver for example, nervous test takers?
Kind of break that question down for me a little bit. So are you asking what other options besides test taking, or?
No, I think so we've had, especially during COVID, we had some situations where some of the colleges were taking a look at the high school transcript and then giving sort of a holistic review and saying, sure, I'll vouch for you that you're college ready. You don't have to do anything else. I don't know how many are still doing that, but we know that you can do it through the TSI or the exams or transfer the course in, or I think you said CLEP or AP, but this would be more like you reviewing the high school transcript and holistically determining the student is ready, or any other option we didn't discuss already.
Correct. So Lone Star referred to it as multiple measures that we use other alternative and for assessments, and we no longer utilize that.
If a student has taken the reading, writing, or sometimes you call it the ELAR portion of the TSI, can they go ahead and start without passing the math portion, or do they have to pass both portions in order to start?
They can go ahead without passing the math portion, as long as the classes that they're wanting to take does not require any math assessments. So if it's a natural science or a math course, possibly accounting, anything that has a math prerequisite, the student will not be eligible to take. So they'll be really looking at reading, writing courses, English, histories, governments, courses like that.
Okay. And are they allowed to take any courses if they can't pass either portion of the TSI? And I'm thinking in terms of like maybe workforce courses, or sometimes there are some courses in the creative arts section of the core that don't have an ELAR or math requirement.
Yes, ma'am. Students are allowed to do that. Based on, again, based on the graduation plan, and it's all eligible to receive the high school credit that they've laid out.
Okay. Let's see here. We have, are any of the courses asynchronous, synchronous? How are the online formats? Are any of them live?
I'm gonna let Professor Cross talk a little bit about the format.
Hi. So the majority of them are asynchronous, but there are synchronous options available. When the student registers for classes, there is a selection menu for synchronous or live classes. And obviously the live classes would have a specified date and time that the student would meet online. So yes, both options are available.
Okay. How many credits is required for a student to earn an associate's degree for them to do in-house? So we know an associate's is 60 credits, but how many credits must they do at Lone Star College in order to earn an associate's degree or a certificate? I suppose would fall into that category as well.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about both. For a certificate, you have to complete 50% what they call residence at Lone Star. For an associate's degree, you have to finish 25% at Lone Star of the 60 credit hours.
Okay.
So I want to say it's 18 credit hours is required residency, or 18 is required.
Okay, and then if a student finishes something like a level 1 certificate or an associate's degree, can they walk in the graduation ceremony for your college?
Yes. They can participate in commencement. Commencement is once a year throughout all of our colleges, and that's every spring semester early May.
Okay. And do you know if your college accepts any ACE credits? So that would be from service providers like Sophia, Study.com, Sailor, Straighter Line, things like that.
We do accept ACE, which is typically our military. So if you're saying like any other third parties outside of the ACE partners, then no, but it has to be done through ACE. And those, what we call a PLA, Prior Learning Assessment, is also available on our website that talks about what's eligible, what's required, if it's as a portfolio for that particular assessment, but it's called the PLA, Prior Learning Assessment, and it gives the rundown of what's allowed or what's accepted under ACE.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's switch over to the chat box and we'll take some of the questions from here. I have a student who is looking at an engineering degree at Texas A&M. Could you please explain in detail how LSC could improve the acceptance rate and which courses would transfer to Texas A&M?
Hey, Tanya, if you don't mind, I would love to take this. Great question. And that's actually probably the best question of the night. No, no disrespect to the other questions. And the reason why is because this is where a lot of students go wrong. They are not doing exactly what KC Provona is doing. And that is, you already know you have a university in mind. So it's best that you figure out, if I take these courses at LSC, how will they transfer to Texas A&M? And I was working with a student just the other day, KC. So I was happy you asked this question, because that link I just put in the chat is actually their transfer equivalency page. So you can go there and look up Lone Star's courses and see which courses actually transfer directly to Texas A&M. Great question. Best question of the night by far. But I just wanted to take that because I just worked with a student the other day on this, and I thought they actually have a very well-built system too. So great question, Casey.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip some of these questions because I believe we answered them. If I skip it and you maybe missed the answer earlier and you needed the answer, go ahead and type that into the chat. I have a question. It's a follow-up question actually to your original question. Would an Associates of Science degree with LSC then transfer to Texas A&M? So I think maybe field of study degrees maybe might apply here, or I think you covered part of it actually in your last answer.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question again, if you don't mind.
It was just a follow-up question, I think. Actually, the person just said they got their answer. So do you have accommodations for kids with ADHD?
Yes. So that's done through our disability services as far as those accommodations. One of the things that is not accommodated is the TSI testing, because it allows unlimited timing and things like that. So TSI is not, no accommodations are allowed. So accommodation is all in related to the classroom.
Okay.
Or to the course.
Okay. And we just have like 1 or 2 minutes left. So I want to also kind of touch on the fact that you actually offer 4-year degrees. You have a small selection of them. Would you mind just quickly talking about the bachelor's degrees and how a student could do dual credit and then end up in a bachelor's degree program at your college?
So the difference between the associate's degree and bachelor's degree, there are requirements, which is typically to have your associate's degree. So what the bachelor's degree allows is students to have their 4-year degree at a cheaper rate. So you're still going to be paying the Lone Star community college rate for those courses on the bachelor's level.
Okay. And I have the list here. If it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and read them. You have a BAT in cybersecurity. You have a BAS in energy, manufacturing, and trades management. You have a BSN in nursing, so that's like an ADN to or RN to BSN, and then BAS in emergency management. And does a student have to graduate from high school to start those? Like if they got their associate's degree as a junior, would they be allowed to start the bachelor's program? And would it be covered under the dual credit rate?
So dual credit is covered under, I want to say that first 2 years. So no, the bachelor's program does not have a dual credit program, if that makes sense. So no, the bachelor's degree program does not have a dual credit admissions process. And one of the things, I'm going to use the nursing program as one of the things to think about, because there's a age limit for licensure, as far as getting certified as under the ADN program to be able to go into a bachelor's program. So being realistic on the nursing one, that's probably not going to be one that a student as a dual credit student will be eligible to apply for, because you have to have your ADN to go to the RN program. And then the other ones, the acceptance, it's really based on your prior degree. So
Okay.
there's still the checklist items that you still have to have. So most of those things, if you're doing an associate's degree and you're lining it out according to your high school curriculum, say you're doing, 15 hours a year, 15 credit hours a year for the next 4 years to reach the 60 hours, then you're probably graduating just in time to possibly apply to their program. They do have application deadlines. So it just depends on how you line everything out or plan everything out. And it goes back to planning being the key to be successful in the program. That way you can have that layout, being able to match what your long-term goal is, and that you don't have as many gaps or wait time.
Okay. And I think this is going to be our last question for the evening. If a student would like a photo ID and they're a distance learner, they're an online student, is there a way for them to get a Lone Star photo ID?
Currently, right now, LSE Online does not issue student IDs, but the student do have the option, if they're closer to one of the campuses, to go to one of the campus and get their picture ID taken that way. As we build our plane, being one of the newest campus, we're trying to still work those things out as far as photo IDs, student IDs.
Great. Okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and end the evening. We thank you all for attending, all the attendees, and for all the questions that you answered. Those were great. We also want to thank the team from Lone Star College for taking time out of their busy schedules and time away from their families to speak with us this evening. We really appreciate you all, and we appreciate how homeschool friendly Lone Star College is. So we want to thank you so much for that. I want to let the members know that we will have the video posted to the group soon, probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. And then the Q&A document may take another day or two after that if we have any updates that need to happen there. And with that, I will say thank you all, everyone, for being here tonight, and we will end. Thank you very much. Good night.